Hey guys, welcome to another video. Today we are going to be continuing our sort of casual series in the exploration of different brands of watercolors. Generally, I think I'll be pairing these paintings overall with some sort of topic that I'd like to talk about. So last time, not my last video, but the last one we did in this series was the Holbein watercolors, and I talked to you guys a bit about art style and things like that. And this time I'm going to be using my Daniel Smith watercolors in this large porcelain palette, and we're going to be talking about something that I have been struggling with quite a bit lately. But before we jump into that, I want to say thank you to Elisha David, who is the artist whose music you heard at the beginning of this video, and also in my last video, he reached out to me and asked me about, using his music in my videos, and I've really been enjoying it, so I will link to his YouTube channel down below if you guys are interested in some really cool music. And if you make YouTube videos, you might find something there that you would like for your channel as well. You can download his songs for free on Bandcamp, or you can, kind of name your price and support him as an artist as well, which is something I will be doing soon. Anyway, today we are going to be talking about the struggle of diving into a piece. Specifically, what I have been dealing with is I hesitate a lot with making bold, confident marks in terms of my watercolor pieces. So what really happens to me a lot, it happened in my Holbein piece and it happened in this one, and somehow the way it's edited, you can't really see the struggle as much. But the issue that I have been going through is that I start really hesitantly with my values. So it takes me a lot longer to finish a piece than I feel that it should, because I do something and then I add a darker value and everything looks way too light, and I feel like I keep doing this runaround of the whole process of trying to get the values to a place where I want them to be. And the easy fix to a problem like this is to start with a darker value. So for example, with this portrait, his hair is not super dark, but it's darker than his general skin tones. So if I had started with the hair, I probably would have felt more confident in laying in darker values with the skin right away. But instead, I was very hesitant and I did lots of light layers, which for watercolors is fine, but it can be kind of frustrating to be working on a piece and feel like you're making a lot of progress, only to reach a point where you see, oh my gosh, I still have so much work to do. So I did try to kind of balance it out with this piece in the fact that I was doing a bit of the background and then a bit of the hair and a bit of the skin, and I was trying to kind of not get focused on one area to kind of cut down on that frustration. But I still reached a point where I did part of this piece in one day, and then I kind of took a step back and looked at it and I said, oh my goodness, I just spent hours on this, and I'm gonna have to spend more hours on this because I was just so hesitant about, putting things where I wanted them to be. And another issue was that I didn't do color comps for this one because I knew the colors that I wanted to use. So I just started going in with things, but still doing a little practice study ahead of time would have helped me to feel more confident in my values. And that was something that I really needed. I did want to do something other than just my standard portrait things, and I am slowly working on getting away from that just by taking my portraits and incorporating other elements into those pieces. So for this one, I wanted to work more with the idea of water droplets, and I was telling a friend in my brain that the water or the liquidy drops in this painting are wax. For some reason in my brain they were wax, and so I don't know, they can be whatever you want them to be. But I did some little tests with watercolor water drops a while ago, and I posted that on my Instagram stories, and I wanted to experiment with incorporating that into a watercolor piece, which is what I'm doing here. So I want to explain a little bit of what you see there with the warping of the paper. You can see that it's a bit I'm doing like the wavy hand motion. What does that mean? It's what's the word? Not warping, buckling. There we go. Buckling of the paper. That's because this paper is thinner than like quote unquote standard or the most common 140 pound or 300 GSM paper. This paper is only 200 GSM, so it's only 2/3 of the thickness of paper that I'm quote-unquote used to, I'd say. But because this paper is taped down, I actually used 2 layers of tape for this one. When it's completely dry, it still dries flat. So I wasn't really worried about it. And if you can work around the buckling, because the paint can pool in those buckles if you are laying down a lot of water at one time, but if you kind of work around that and try not to use too much water, it'll be fine. So let me explain to you what I'm doing with these water droplets. So it's a 3-step process. 4-step technically. The first step is to lay down a background color, which I did. The second step is to add a denser color to one side of the droplets, and this is just a technique that I like to use for them. I kept mine fairly round, but you don't have to. And I added like a soft color to one side and then kind of faded that out with some water. The third step is what you're seeing here, which is adding shadows to the opposite side of that dense color, or the same side. You can do whatever you want. You could look up references of water droplets, and that would be probably more effective. It would be effective. This is also a fun way to do whatever. You can do what you want to do. Anyway, the third step was in adding my shadows, and one thing I really like is that if you want to do like a different colored background, for example, if you had like a window you were painting, or yeah, a window, and there were water droplets on the window and the background was fuzzy, you could do a wet wash of various colors, maybe some blues and greens or purples and pinks or whatever. You could just do a wet wash, and then by placing the denser color that I have like on the top of my droplets over top, but with the varying colors underneath, it kind of sets those droplets into an environment, into an atmosphere. I hope that makes sense. I hope you know what I'm trying to say. As you can see, I was placing this pinkish color over the skin tones, and the places I was putting it weren't always exactly the same color underneath. The skin may have been varying colors underneath, but it still worked out really well because all the droplets were the same pinkish color. And I'll do the same thing with placing the shadows. Now, if you make your shadows a little bit larger with this technique, it's going to imply a couple of things. It can either imply that you have a stronger light source that's casting a larger shadow, or a varying angle, or what can happen is, especially the one on his cheek there on the side, you can see the shadow is larger, and it almost makes it look like the droplet is kind of off of his face, like it's floating or something like that. Anyway, it's a fun technique, and I'm happy to get to use it in this painting. The last step is the white gouache. So I have actually been shying away from white highlights lately. I feel like they can be too stark when they're just white, but gouache is actually really great for that because I can blend out my highlights. I can kind of set them down, and then I can use water to soften those so they're not so stark. The only place I did want more pure white highlights were on these water droplets. So that's the last step in creating this effect in the way that I have been doing it here, is to add white highlights, and it gives this really nice illustrative look, and I really enjoyed working on it. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I'm not going to apologize for being rambly and not staying on topic anymore, because that's just how things are probably gonna keep going. So I hope you guys have enjoyed watching this video. I've enjoyed making this video and painting this piece and hanging out with you. So thanks again, guys, for watching this video, and I will see you next time. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. Bye!